I can still hear the laughter. That fake, high-pitched laugh she always had when she tried to act innocent. And his voice, low, smooth, too calm for someone who just got caught. I didn't walk in on them naked. I didn't catch them in bed. But somehow this hurt worse. It was just a look. A single, stolen look across my living room. But in that second I knew. They had history. They had secrets. They had me fooled. My name is Rachel. I'm 34. I live in Columbus, Ohio. And until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had the perfect life. Perfect husband. Perfect best friend. Perfect lie. Jason and I had been married for 8 years. We weren't newlyweds, but we were solid, or so I thought. We had our routines: Sunday pancakes, Thursday takeout, Netflix every night until I fell asleep on the couch. Nothing wild. Nothing dramatic. Safe. Comfortable. Ours. And Lisa? She was my person. My sister from another mister. We met in college. Laughed through breakups, cried through funerals, danced at each other's weddings. She held my hair when I was sick. She held my secrets like a vault. And all this time she was holding my husband too. It started with small things. The way she smiled a little too long when he made a joke. The way he offered to pour her wine before mine. The way they avoided eye contact like guilty kids in church. But I told myself I was imagining it. I had to be. Until that night. We were hosting a game night, just a few friends, drinks, cards. It was nothing fancy. But when I came out of the kitchen with a tray of nachos, I saw them. Jason was leaning close. Too close. Lisa was biting her lip, her hand resting on his knee. They weren't even talking. Just staring. Like no one else was in the room. I stood there. Frozen. The tray tipped. Cheese everywhere. Everyone laughed. Except them. They snapped out of it, pretended to help me clean up. But I wasn't cleaning up nachos. I was cleaning up the first pieces of my broken life. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I needed proof. I needed truth. Because when your heart is on the line, suspicions aren't enough. You need something undeniable. And oh, I got it. The night after game night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Jason, staring at the ceiling, listening to his calm, even breaths. How could he sleep so peacefully while I was silently falling apart just inches away? I turned to face him in the dark, watching the curve of his shoulder, the rise and fall of his chest, and I felt this wave of nausea crawl up my throat. I wanted to scream, to shake him awake and demand the truth. But instead, I whispered, "Do you love me?" And he murmured something like, "Of course, babe," without even opening his eyes. It sounded like a reflex. Like muscle memory. Not love. I started looking for signs. Not in the dramatic, movie-like way, no lipstick on collars or perfume on skin. But in the quiet moments. The charged silences. The way Lisa's name popped up more often in Jason's mouth than mine. The texts on his phone that he always deleted. The way he suddenly had opinions about things Lisa and I had only talked about in private, like how I'd been considering a career change, something I hadn't even told him yet. But he brought it up. Casually. Like it was his idea. And Lisa, she started pulling away from me just enough to feel unnatural. She canceled plans. She stopped texting good morning. She never looked me in the eye for more than a second. Guilt was written all over her. She just hoped I was too blind to read it. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed him. Jason said he had a meeting across town and wouldn't be home until late. My stomach twisted the second he said it. So I waited 10 minutes after he left, grabbed my keys, and trailed him like a stranger in my own city. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would give me away. He wasn't going to a meeting. He pulled into a quiet street near a park I'd never been to. I parked 2 cars behind and watched. And then she appeared. Lisa. Dressed like she wasn't meeting a friend. Dressed like she was meeting a lover. Tight jeans. Heels. Lipstick I'd given her for Christmas. She got into his car. They didn't drive off. They just sat there. Talking. Laughing. And then he kissed her. Not a quick kiss. A slow, deliberate one. The kind of kiss you give someone you miss. Someone you've been craving. Someone you shouldn't be kissing. I couldn't move. I couldn't cry. I just stared, frozen behind the wheel, my entire body going numb. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. By 2 people I loved most. 2 people I trusted with every vulnerable piece of me. I drove home in silence, parked in the driveway, and sat there until the sun went down. I didn't even notice the tears until they hit my hands. I didn't confront him that night. I didn't text Lisa. I needed time. I needed a plan. Because when the people who are supposed to protect your heart are the ones setting it on fire, you don't just react. You prepare for war. And I was done being the clueless wife. It was time they saw exactly who they were messing with. I spent the next few days pretending everything was normal. I smiled when I had to. I kissed Jason goodbye in the morning. I sent Lisa a meme like I used to. I even forced laughter at dinner with Jason's parents that weekend when his hand touched mine under the table. But inside? Inside, I was gathering every sharp edge of my broken heart and building a weapon out of it. I wasn't going to scream or cry in front of them. No. I wanted control. I wanted clarity. I needed to know the depth of the betrayal before I decided how deep I'd cut them out of my life. So I did what I had to. I went through his phone. It wasn't easy. Jason was careful. He had no messages from Lisa, no photos, no calls. But I knew him. I knew his patterns, his habits. And I remembered he used an old iPad sometimes for reading. It was synced to his iCloud. That's where I found it. Hundreds of messages. Some were short and flirty, inside jokes, quick, miss you texts, pictures of what they were wearing under their clothes. But others read like love letters. Plans to run away together. Her telling him she never felt truly seen until him. Him telling her he was only staying with me for practical reasons. That I'd never understand him like she did. That I was boring, controlling, emotionally distant. I read those lines over and over until the words blurred on the screen. Emotionally distant. The same woman who used to call me her soulmate now whispered to my husband about how incomplete I was. The same man who begged me to marry him now mocked our life together in secret. It felt like I was mourning two people at once, Jason, the man I loved, and Lisa, the friend I would have taken a bullet for. And what hurt the most wasn't just the sex. It wasn't the kisses or the lies. It was the intimacy. The way they built a world behind my back. A world where I didn't exist. Where I was just a problem to solve, a name to avoid, a ring to remove eventually. I took screenshots of everything. I printed them. Put them in an envelope. Wrote both their names on it in big black letters. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. Leave it on the bed? Mail it to her office? Throw it at them in public? My mind spun through fantasies of revenge, scenes where I'd stand tall, voice trembling but powerful while they crumbled with shame. But instead I waited. Because I wanted one more moment. One final piece. And I got it. Lisa called me the next morning. Her voice was syrupy sweet, fake as ever, and she said she missed me. Said we hadn't had a proper girls' night in too long. Said we should catch up, just us. I almost laughed. I told her yes. We set a date. She was walking into a trap and she didn't even know it. The night of our so-called girls' night, I lit candles. I poured wine. I set out her favorite snacks. The same ones I used to buy when we stayed up talking until 3 a.m. about everything, love, dreams, men who didn't deserve us. It felt grotesque, a parody of the sisterhood we once had. But I played my part. When Lisa walked in, smiling like she hadn't shattered my entire world, I almost couldn't believe the audacity. She hugged me, a little too tight, her perfume choking me. I used to love that scent. Now it made my skin crawl. She took off her coat, sat on the couch, curled her legs underneath her like always. God, I've missed this, she said. You. Us. Her eyes sparkled like she meant it. I almost questioned myself again. Almost. But then I remembered the messages. The kiss in the car. The way she called me clingy to the man I married. We talked. Laughed even. And then I dropped the question like a bomb. Are you sleeping with Jason? She froze. For just a second. But that second was everything. Her pupils widened. Her jaw tightened. And then she laughed. A soft, hollow sound. What she said too fast. No. Rachel, where's this coming from? I leaned forward, my voice calm. Too calm. Don't lie to me. Her lips parted like she might deny it again, but she didn't. She sat back, looked at her glass. Then finally she whispered, I didn't mean for it to happen. I felt like my ears were ringing. The air between us changed. Heavier. Dirtier. She started explaining as if any words could undo the wreckage. Said it started as an accident, that they were both lonely, that she never wanted to hurt me. That they thought I'd find out and leave him and then they'd have no choice but to move on together. My stomach turned. Was it worth it? I asked, my voice shaking for the first time. She didn't answer right away. And that silence, God, that silence was louder than any scream. I stood up, walked to the table, picked up the envelope with the screenshots. I tossed it beside her wine glass. In case you ever forget who you really are. She didn't open it. She didn't have to. Her face turned red, her hands trembling as she picked up her coat. Rachel, I'm sorry. No, I said. You're not. You're just sorry you got caught. She left. And I didn't cry. I sat on that couch for a long time, staring at the door. listening to the echo of betrayal in the silence she left behind. The next day it was Jason's turn, and he didn't know what was coming. Jason came home late the next evening. He walked in like nothing had changed, kissed my forehead, tossed his keys in the bowl by the door, and asked what was for dinner. I looked at him, really looked. His face, familiar and foreign all at once. The man I had built a life with, slept beside, cooked for, prayed for, and now, the man who slept with my best friend. I had spent hours rehearsing what I'd say. I had imagined shouting, throwing things, breaking plates, or maybe breaking him. But when the moment came, I felt eerily calm. Because when the worst has already happened, there's no fear left. Only truth. I didn't answer his question. Instead, I walked to the table where the second envelope sat. Identical to the one I gave Lisa. I handed it to him without a word. He took it, confused, then slowly opened it. I watched as his eyes scanned the pages. I watched his expression shift, from confusion to shock, to a pathetic kind of guilt that came too late. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. He didn't know what to say. "I know everything," I said, my voice low, deliberate. "Every text, every photo, every lie." He set the papers down like they were on fire, rubbed his face with both hands. "Rachel, I never meant for this to happen." I almost laughed. "That's what she said too. Do you two practice your lines?" He stood up, tried to come closer. "Can we just talk?" "Don't," I snapped. "Don't touch me. Don't insult me by pretending you're sorry. You weren't sorry when you kissed her in your car. You weren't sorry when you lied to my face every day. You were only sorry when you got caught." His shoulders sagged. He looked older, smaller, weaker than I'd ever seen him. "I didn't want to lose you." "But you did," I said, standing tall. "You lost me the moment you decided my best friend was more exciting than your wife. You lost me when you turned me into an option instead of a partner." He started crying. Real heavy tears. Should have broken me. A year ago it would have. But now I felt nothing but a deep, cold clarity. "I want a divorce," I said. "And I want you out by Friday." He begged, pleaded, tried to blame stress, loneliness, our routines, anything but himself. But I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Because that woman, the woman who would have fought for him, forgiven him, folded herself in half just to make things okay. She was gone. I watched him pack his things the next day. Each drawer he emptied felt like cleansing a wound. Every step he took away from my home was a step back toward myself. And when he finally walked out the door, I didn't just feel heartbreak. I felt freedom. The first weekend alone was the hardest. The silence was deafening. No footsteps in the hallway. No Jason humming in the shower. No Lisa texting you up when she wanted to vent or gossip or just pretend we were still 17. The void they left wasn't just in my apartment. It was in my routines, my memories, my identity. For years, my life had been wrapped around theirs. My joys were their joys. My heartbreaks were soothed by them. And now all of it felt contaminated. Every room had a ghost in it. Not the haunting kind, the reminding kind, the kind that whispered, "You weren't enough." But as the hours passed, something strange happened. I stopped checking my phone every minute. I stopped scanning social media for signs of them. I started reclaiming my space. I moved the bed to a different wall. I threw away the wine glasses Lisa gave us as a wedding gift. I opened the windows, played music loud, let the air in, let myself back in. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the difference between being lonely and being at peace. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. At first it was all rage. Sharp, ugly sentences full of curses and questions and disbelief. But after a few days, the words softened. I began writing about the before the betrayal, before the weight of pretending, before I lost myself in the effort of keeping everyone else whole. I remembered who I was, who I used to be, a woman with ideas, with passion, with boundaries. And somewhere in those pages, I found her again. Friends came by cautiously at first. They didn't know what to say. Most had heard bits of the story, Rumors filtered through whispers and side eyes. But the ones who mattered didn't press. They sat with me, held space, brought wine, and bad movies and soft comfort. They reminded me that not everyone I loved would hurt me. That betrayal doesn't mean I'm broken. That trust, while fragile, isn't dead. Then came the message. 2 weeks after Jason moved out, Lisa texted me. A long paragraph. No greeting. No real apology. Just an explanation. She said she'd ended things with him. Said it wasn't real. That she missed me. That she hoped one day I'd understand. That maybe in another life we could still be friends. I stared at the message for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen. There was so much I wanted to say. So much I could scream into that tiny white box. But instead I typed 2 words. We're done. And I blocked her. Not out of pettiness. Not even out of anger. But because some doors don't deserve to be reopened. Some wounds only heal when you stop picking the scab and let them scar. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about release. And I was finally ready to let go. Healing didn't come all at once. It wasn't some dramatic sunrise or epiphany wrapped in tears. It came quietly in fragments. In the way I stopped bracing myself every time my phone buzzed. In the way I began to sleep through the night without waking up to imaginary sounds, half expecting to find Jason beside me or Lisa in my inbox. It came in small decisions, choosing to walk instead of sit with my sadness, cooking for one without feeling pitiful, deleting old photos not with bitterness but with a sense of necessary closure. Healing was boring, repetitive, unglamorous. But it was real. I started therapy. At first, I didn't know what to say. I sat in that beige room with my arms crossed, half defensive, half defeated. But my therapist, Maria, had this gentle way of asking questions that made the truth slide out before I realized I was holding it. We didn't just talk about the affair. We talked about me. About how I'd spent so many years being someone else's anchor that I forgot how to float on my own. About how I confused loyalty with self-abandonment. About how I let red flags become decorations just to avoid the pain of confrontation. It was hard. Some days I left those sessions angrier than when I came in. But I kept going. And piece by piece I started recognizing myself again, not the wife, not the best friend, not the betrayed, but the woman I used to be and the one I was still becoming. One afternoon, a few months in, I ran into Jason at the grocery store. It was surreal, like seeing a ghost in daylight. He looked thinner. Tired. His eyes lit up when he saw me, but there was hesitation behind the smile. He asked how I'd been. I told him I was fine. He asked if I hated him. I said I didn't. Because I didn't. Not anymore. Hate takes energy, and I had wasted enough of that on someone who threw away our life for a cheap thrill wrapped in lies. He apologized again. Said he regretted everything. Said he missed me. But I could hear it in his voice. What he really missed was the version of himself he got to be when I loved him. The man who felt steady because I kept us grounded. And now he was drifting, and it showed. I didn't give him hope. I didn't offer a smile or a hug or a maybe someday. I simply nodded, wished him peace, and walked away. Not out of cruelty. But because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is leave without looking back. Later that night, I realized I didn't cry. Not even a twinge of pain. That's when I knew I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. As fall crept in and the leaves turned gold, something shifted in me. The grief no longer gripped me the way it used to. I began noticing beauty again, in the way morning light filtered through my curtains, in the sound of leaves crunching beneath my boots, in the simple act of waking up and not immediately feeling dread. There was peace now, not just in the absence of chaos, but in the presence of me. A me who had learned to stop begging for love. A me who didn't need constant validation to feel whole. A me who understood that betrayal didn't define my worth, it revealed theirs. I started saying yes to things I used to avoid. Art classes. Brunches. Solo hikes. I bought myself flowers on Sundays. I wrote poems, even bad ones, just because they helped me untangle my feelings. And slowly, the apartment didn't feel like a museum of pain anymore, it felt like home. My home. I repainted the bedroom. Got new sheets. Lit candles that didn't remind me of anyone but myself. Every change was a declaration. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I still matter. Friends began to comment on how different I seemed. Lighter. Calmer. They asked if I was seeing anyone. I wasn't. I wasn't even looking. Not because I was closed off, but because, for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't waiting for someone to come save me. I didn't need a romantic storyline to feel complete. I had become my own protagonist. And in this new chapter, the drama wasn't necessary. Only honesty was. Then one evening, out of nowhere, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it slowly, heart thudding. It was from Lisa. She wrote that she'd moved out of state. Said she lost everything after what happened. Her job, her friends, even her family's respect. She said she spent months in therapy, trying to make sense of her choices. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just wanted to say she was sorry, truly sorry. Not for the affair, not for the fallout, but for the years of pretending. For the way she watched me love her while knowing she was lying to my face. I read it twice, then I folded it, tucked it into the back of my journal, and left it there. I didn't write back. Not because I hadn't forgiven her, but because I had. Quietly. On my own terms. I didn't need her to know that. I didn't need her to be part of my healing. Her chapter in my life was closed, and forgiveness wasn't a key to reopening it. It was a quiet sigh, a way of saying, "You don't get to hurt me anymore." That night, I slept with the windows open and a soft smile on my face, because even in the chill of autumn, I had never felt warmer. Months passed, and the scars softened. I stopped marking time by their betrayal. My world no longer revolved around what they did to me, but around what I was doing for myself. I started to trust again, not in people right away, but in life, in my ability to survive, to rebuild, to grow. The days no longer felt like a weight to carry. They felt like something I got to create. And in that freedom, I started dreaming again. I took a short trip to Maine. Just me, the ocean, and a stack of books I'd been meaning to read for years. I walked the coastline in the early mornings, the wind cold against my skin, the waves roaring like a soundtrack to my resurrection. One morning, I stood at the edge of a cliff and let myself scream. Not in pain, but in release. I screamed out the last of the bitterness, the shame, the guilt I never deserved to carry. The seagulls scattered, the wind howled back, and I laughed. Felt ridiculous, and absolutely necessary. When I came home, I started painting again. Not for anyone, not to be good, just for me. My apartment filled with canvases that were messy and vibrant and full of emotion. I realized I had spent so long trying to be neat, composed, likable. Now I just wanted to be real. And in that rawness, I found a version of myself that was more honest than ever before. One afternoon, I bumped into an old acquaintance, someone I hadn't seen since before the divorce. He looked surprised to see me smiling. "You look different," he said. I smiled and replied, "I am." He asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime, and for the first time I didn't feel a surge of panic at the idea. I wasn't sure if I wanted anything serious, but I also wasn't afraid anymore. Love, if it came again, would be on my terms. It would be chosen, not clung to, built, not begged for. Later that night, as I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and a breeze in my hair, I thought about everything I'd been through, the lies, the heartbreak, the loss, and I realized something strange. I was grateful, not for the betrayal itself, never that, but for what it revealed, for the parts of me it forced to surface, for the way it stripped away every illusion and left only truth. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is also the thing that sets you free. And I was free. I used to believe that betrayal would ruin me, that if someone I loved ever turned on me, it would break something permanent inside. But what I've learned, through every sleepless night, every aching breath, every tear wiped away in silence, is that betrayal doesn't break you. It reveals you. It strips away the illusions, the comforts, the lies you told yourself to feel safe. And what's left in that raw, exposed place is the truth of who you are. And who I am is stronger than I ever imagined. People often talk about closure like it's something someone gives you. Conversation, an apology, a reason. But that's not how it works. Real closure is something you give yourself. It's the moment you stop needing answers from the people who hurt you. It's the moment you stop replaying the betrayal like a scene in your mind. It's when their names stop tasting like poison in your mouth. And when your own name starts feeling like home again. Jason and Lisa will always be a chapter in my story. Not the villain chapter, not even the tragic one, just a chapter. A necessary, painful turning point. They taught me what I will never tolerate again. What kind of love I will never accept. They forced me to become honest with myself in a way I'd been avoiding for years. And for that, I don't hate them. I don't wish them happiness either. I just wish them distance. I wish them silence. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who walked through fire and didn't come out ashes. I see someone who rebuilt herself from pieces they never even knew they'd shattered. And not just rebuilt, but reinvented. Refined. Realigned. And if one day love finds me again, it won't be because I need it to feel whole. It will be because I am already whole, and I'll be choosing love not from desperation, but from strength. To anyone reading this, hurting from betrayal, I promise you, this pain won't define you. It will sharpen you. It will teach you to stop apologizing for being too much or not enough. It will guide you back to your own voice, the one you had before they tried to rewrite your story. Let them go. Let yourself rise. You are not the wound. You are the healing.